thank you for sitting down with us, Aaron. It was an excellent lecture. Our first question for you is, what was it like the first time you went back to the canyon? I mean, this place that you've been trapped in almost a week of your life. What kind of emotions did you experience?
It was very intense, of course, and I was there with friends as well as with the documentary film crew that included Tom Brokaw, who came down through the canyon and did an interview there with me in that place. And he was very fatherly, in a sense, very protective of me to make sure that I was okay being there and going through this experience, because I sobbed. I mean, I cried for like 3 hours straight. It was so intense to relive some of those moments, both the darkness, but also that light of feeling that euphoria, the ecstasy of stepping out of that spot and knowing what my life meant, what beauty there was to still being alive. And I felt all of that. It was completion. It brought it full circle for me. Physically, I could do it again. I knew that was an important part of it. And to leave the remains in my hand, and again, as I mentioned with the prayer, a very private moment that I kind of alluded to, but it was with this prayer that I might experience a fraction of that joy that I felt in that moment, that I might have that every day. So it was extremely meaningful to go back. Obviously, it means a lot for me to go back each time. The first time, yeah, it was good that I had some shoulders to cry on, because there was a lot of that too.
Our next question would be, what was the experience like when you worked on a movie set? I know 127 hours,
Yeah.
something like Danny Boyle. So what were some of the experiences you encountered on that set?
I had a great time with the movie, and I guess I should have apologized for anybody that was expecting James Franco or somebody that maybe looked a little more like. I heard from one of the students in the reception earlier, like, I told my brother that I was going to meet the guy from 127 hours, and he was like, James Franco? Oh, sorry. But we had a great time. I think some of the more fascinating aspects of movie making is how accurate they were able to portray my experience. That they went to endless lengths. Going out to the canyon, we filmed there, but they also replicated that canyon and brought two versions of it into life on a sound stage in this set in Salt Lake City. It was amazing. It was being in that canyon again, to millimeter accuracy. They had taken molded casts of the actual, they painted this rubberized and peeled it off and built canyon walls out of it. Then when they got it back to Salt Lake City, the boulder itself, they replicated that. And I now have that actual fake boulder in my office at home. It's got a little bit of James Franco's blood on it too. I mean, he really gave himself to the they bolted him into place and then said, okay, you cannot move this rock, but try to move the rock. And he's like, okay, but we're going to do this in one take. And he really, 22 minutes went through watching him do that, just beat himself up against it, seeing like how real that was, because that's where you get that effect that's so, again, so accurate in the movie. They, found replicas of my cameras, of the rope, of my truck, my mountain bike, my clothes, everything that they were able to make real again. So for me to stand there and watch somebody, especially when his hat was pulled down, I couldn't totally see his face, but he's doing everything that I did, and it was so surreal to see that, like being somewhat like a phantom presence inside this experience that I lived, and now I'm reliving it in a way. There were fun times too, for sure, that walking through the property department at a little point, and there are all these jars with various shades of yellow and brown liquids in the mason jars. Like, what? And trying to replicate the fake urine, and as it turns out, they went through like dissolving coffee grounds and letting various things ferment and trying to see like what would give the color and the texture and also be still drinkable. James had to actually, but it turns out apple juice. So, yeah. Right. And some of the just those moments too of going out into the real canyon. I got to be out there we had a week where we shot in the canyon. They had 45 people in tents and were very respectful of the desert, the environment there. And at one point, they were all a bunch, complete catering tent in the middle of the desert, and all this, everything's been helicoptered in. And then I'm taking some time in the canyon by the rock, and at this point, Leo had been bored, my son, so it's like I've got my digital camera there, and I'm showing the rock pictures of Leo from, it's like part of the family. I got it. Like, he's so cute, I know. And I'm standing there in the spot, and what happens, but here comes a troop of Boy Scouts, and the film crew has a ladder in place that goes over the boulder where I'm standing, and now I'm kind of stuck in the spot, in this claustrophobic space, as this parade of like 10, 11, 12-year-olds is coming down, and they realize like that, oh, this is it. He's still here! We got pictures together and everything, but they're so wide-eyed about that. So some kind of bizarre moments too back there. It was a great honor to work with Danny Boyle. He's an amazing filmmaker, and I thought that they just could not have done a better job of it. Very happy.
And for your final question, in the book as well as in the movie, there was a crow that flew over you every morning up until the 6th morning. What was the significance of the crow every morning that you saw it until the day you didn't see it?
Yeah, and I didn't mention it. I don't go through every detail, of course, in my presentation, but that was a significant one for me while I was there, because it meant not only that I had made it to another morning, because that was kind of like an alarm clock of sorts, that it was a way of like putting a notch in the wall of how many days I'd been there. And, oh, okay, there was the raid, one more day. But it also was life, just as simply as that. There's the saying that where there's life, there's hope. So it kept me going. And then what ultimately happened, though, is you know, Cullin told me earlier, and I saw his book, he's read it 3 times, and he said he's virtually memorized it. But by the last day, as I've seen the vision of the little boy, I know I'm going to somehow get out of there, but I haven't figured out how yet. And the raven did not fly overhead. As I was still there, I felt abandoned. Because now the one, in some ways, totem, this connection that I have with the only other living creature around, and it's gone, it's left. And I took it as a very bad omen. What I would not understand until I was out, and then I'm in the hospital, and I had a friend who went back into the canyon and retrieved some of my belongings that I left at the pool of water, and he brought them to me a couple of days later in the hospital. My harness and some of the stuff I had thrown out of my backpack I didn't intend to carry. And he said, "You drank from that water? Oh, did you see the dead raven floating in it?" Yeah. And there was this exchange. I mean, he'd seen me through so much, and then I got out, and it died, and then was flash flooded out. There was a flood 2 days, actually, no, it was the next day that after I got out on May 2nd, it flooded in the canyon. The timing of all of this, and that raven ended up down in that pool of water. And so it's not that I can explain the significance of it so much or what it all meant, but I do take it as being something, a portent of that omen, but in a very positive way now. It helped me through, and then there was this exchange, so to speak. I wear a bracelet, as you can see, but for those of you in the audience, it's a little difficult, but there's 2 ravens actually on the bracelet holding a nut in their beaks there together. And to me, it's the raven and me and that nut, that seed of life that we're sharing and both holding in that same moment. A native Alaskan woman made this for me and gave it to me 9 years ago now. Barely gone a day without wearing it. It's still very special. Kind of a mystical sort of way. I'm not so much that kind of guy, but it is, it's very important. But I appreciate the question. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have time to open it up for the audience? Or what do you want to do?
That's all the time we
We'll
have.
take them out there when I say hi to everybody. We'll get pictures.
If everyone would fill out the evaluations in their programs, we'd love to have you join us on the 2nd floor lobby for a book signing. Thank Thank you so much, Amanda.